Things are going well for us this year. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Nobody else has signed up. Is anybody else wishing to make a comment? Linda?
I'm Janetta Rudden and I live on 6th Street in Port Angeles. I'm gonna parrot Norma. I think it's gonna be the first time you see a Republican type person and a Democrat type person work together. I still work CRC. When they get kids in CRC, I get a phone call to come out. But the issue really is, this rumor, discussion, whatever, has been going on for 2 or 3 years.
Since 2009.
Yes, and it needs to stop. Because without juvenile detention, this community would be lost. I could bring you probably 300 people in here that would say, my kid only lives today or survives today because of those detention officers and those probation officers out there. So it needs to stop. It needs to be cut right now. Maybe a mistake was made in that discussion. I know it was out of context when it was League of Women Voters. So I don't want to hear it again until we have one kid in detention. Then we might talk about it. But as long as we have kids that need detention, and those detention officers are trained counselors, just like juvenile probation officers. Those kids have survived because of the resiliency skills that they have learned from detention. And you don't survive in this world anymore as a kid unless you have resiliency skills. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to make a comment? Thank you.
Maybe wrong. I guess I'm the guilty party. After further researching, I need to clarify my position and support for County Juvenile Services and Family Services. I have spoken to the director, Pete Peterson. I spent a great deal of time with him, and I did support his program when I was out there. When I spoke to Mr. Jones, we had discussed what would the county cut, and that was one of the things that we had discussed. I did not present it well enough. I would never do anything to harm children in our community. I have used the services myself with my son when he got in trouble, and I am, with what the juvenile services did for my son, probably saved my son's life. No amount of the budget cuts could ever compensate for the family unit and the safety of our community. To even consider change would prove a detriment to our youth and families in Clallam County. We have one of the most effective juvenile services in the state of Washington, and the budget cuts would not be cost effective to our county. Again, I say we cannot cut these services, and I ask that you support Pete Peterson and the many years the Services Department of Juvenile Services have provided for our children and our families in Clallam County. And again, I apologize. I did not intend for it to come across as to eliminating any services. In fact, I would support more out there because, like I said, if the services adopt and they're to provide for my son, who is 33 years old today, I probably would not have it.
Anybody else wishing to make a comment? Yeah. While you're coming up to the administrator, I think your projection of a $550,000 structural deficit is about as good as it can in many years. So in really your experience, wouldn't you say that is generally so manageable as if to say we basically have a balance? That's it. Your estimates are low, your revenues are low, estimated low, your expenditures are often estimated high. That number jumps out at me as what a difference.
It's a huge difference, and I would, if you were here today, as we talk often, Stan Creasy in the auditor's office, who also does his own projections. Oh, is he here? Is he in the back? Oh, there you are. I didn't see that. Okay. Well, anyway, Stan, I love one of his quotes that he says every year. That's within the noise. You know, that on the size of our budget, to have a $550,000 structural, and the way that I project, you're absolutely right, is super conservative in terms of, I generally try and make sure I err on the side of too much expenditure and too little revenue, just to make sure we're comfortable. And in fact, Stan's presentation calculated a completely different way. I love the way he works on this. His presentation of his estimate to the finance committee was that we would only have a $1,153,782 deficit. So again, the difference between his almost 1.2 million and my 1.7 million is also within the noise on this side of the budget. So yes, we have done this year significantly better. It's primarily a revenue issue, but also on the expenditure side, some things that we budgeted for in case they happen, clearly enough. And so, yeah, $550,000 structural deficit is nothing on $34 million worth of a general fund. It's a very small number.
You're very manageable.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't even be concerned about it, other than to report it to you.
Thanks, Rando. I want to thank the commissioners for the restoration of sales tax that helped close this discrepancy between revenues and expenditures. And I want to thank the departments for strong budget control that helped us get there too, and have a strong reserve so that if another deviation issue comes up with this property that's in the mix today, swim. We have the resources to deal with that, because from the description of the condition, this is a very unusual process, to say the least, and it doesn't give me a good feeling about where it's headed. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to comment? Now, formal motion to accept the media budget review. We'll close the public hearing if there's no objection. Motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close public hearing. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.